Okej. Marten, pozwolę sobie Ciebie przedstawić. Czy my
Okay,
już
Marten, let me introduce you. Do we have the interpreters? Yes, we do. Say the interpreters. Hello, hello. Yes, we do.
Super, super, dziękuję.
Yes.
Marten, dzień dobry. Witam Cię bardzo serdecznie.
Hello, Marten.
Chciałam powiedzieć, że jeszcze się
I wanted to say that we actually haven't met face to face with Marten. However, you're a person I'm really looking forward to meet face to face, because it's really likely that we will meet in Łódź at the end of April. So I'm very happy that you'll be running groups, yeah, in Łódź.
Jestem zadowolona, że to się wreszcie uda.
I'm very happy you'll be able to do it finally. Marten Bos.
I prezentacja pod tytułem
And the presentation, Home is where our heart is. Marten is a Gestalt psychotherapist who's from the Netherlands. And what is important in the context of today's conference, which I will allow myself to say, is that Marten works with the themes of exclusion on a daily basis, with diversity. He has worked with refugees, with Moroccan migrants, with people with addictions, people with disabilities. And so I hope that we'll be able to hear a lot of interesting stories. So, Marten, the floor is yours.
Okay, I think I can start. Good afternoon. Well, I was introduced already. Marten Bos is my name, from the Netherlands. And I hope I can give some inspiration to see, and my topic is home is where the heart is, with the question mark. Because a lot of times I think that the situation people are in, we are far away from home, and how can we deal with these things? I'm working a lot on the topic of diversity, and I've been working a lot with people with an immigrant and refugee background. So my expertise is for a big part coming from there. I've been active in the LGBT community, so also there is some of my background, and working with a lot of clients who had to go away from home, or choose to go away from home or from their family. So in the preparation, I'm trying to get the next. Technique is not my. How can I go to the next slide? These technical things are not my best. It gets stuck on the first slide. Can anybody? Yes. I found these words from Carl Jung, and life is always that we are cut off from our roots, the danger of living in a conscious mind. And he says that we should see how we get our own constitution in order to function according to the original foundation, which I think is quite an optimistic way, because I think a lot of people are in the impasse, and I think that is deal with the impasse that we are in, because we don't feel always that we can live according to our own rules, because we are forced to be in the other situation, dangerous situation, and cut off from where we come from. For me, what I like about Gestalt is that we are thinking in a political way, and that we are not just looking at the individual, but always trying to look at the individual in the field aware and the relational situational situation. And for me, I think that is always a political activity. So we always have to be aware of privilege, minority, marginalizations, and the things that we have to deal. That brings me to the idea that what is the figure, and is the figure where we are working with is always influenced by norms, powers, privileges, projections, and I think also with a lot of shame, so that sometimes we present a figure or we are aware of a figure from the ground, but how does it relate to the position where people are in that we work with? And especially coming from marginalized position, it's a lot of time not possible to present the figure that you would like to present, because there is shame and there is also a danger involved. And for me, it was interesting to, at a certain point, read the theory of intersectionality, because for me, the words of the intersectionality by Kimberly Crenshaw gave us more an idea that there is always power involved. And also what she said, and that is where I work a lot with the power of the multiple story. We are not one story. We are not one identity. We are a lot of identity, and those identities interact with each other. And I think it's for us as Gestalt, it's important that, because we work in this holistic idea and we work with the field and relational, that it's always good to see how is the multiple story still in our room, or how easily we and our clients get into the stuck identity. Like one of my mentors, Beverly Silverman, she said, don't fall in love with your own clue. And I think we sometimes fall in love with our own clue and put our clients in one position, the position of the refugee, the position of the LGBT, the position of the migrant. And then I think it's important for us to see what is the bigger story and how can we get that bigger story here. One of the people who also inspired me is this woman who was telling about the danger of the single story. How, if we work in the single story, we create an object, and we are not longer working with the subject and with the total person. In her TED talk, which I really recommend, she, for example, says that when she was a young girl, she was writing stories, and then she was reading a lot, and then in her reading, she read that girls were drinking tea and eating apples. So she thought, if I'm a writer, I have to write about tea and about eating apples. But she said, we didn't drink tea. We drink water, and we were eating mango. But because she thought writing is about this, then I have to do that as well. And I think a lot of our clients as well think that in therapy or in coaching or whatever we do, I have to bring that story, because that's the story that my therapist, my coach, or whatever it is, wants to hear. And also in the power distance that we have between us and our clients, we have to be aware of these things, that people have assumptions about what they should talk about, and that they present themselves in a single story instead of in the multiple story. Where I came this is from a man I work with. He is a colleague now. He is a refugee from former Yugoslavia. And we worked together, and he made these circles together with me to see what did change before the war, when he was in Yugoslavia, and then when he was in the asylum seeker center, and then afterwards when he was living in the Netherlands. I kept it in his words, so they're in Dutch. But what is very important for me, that you see that there is the part of the father, which kind of stayed a bit the same. Also, the partner stayed a bit the same. A man, he had to really, being in the asylum seeker center, he was really like, am I a good man? Because I need to take care of my family and I cannot take care of my family. And the other circle also, for example, work suddenly disappeared because in the asylum seeker center, he was not working anymore. So the identity from his work was different. What also was interesting that his religion in former Yugoslavia was not very a big part of his identity, but in the asylum seeker center, people told him and asked him, but you are a Muslim, and so you have to do as a Muslim. And so suddenly he was like, my religion became suddenly very important. And before that, it was never important. So for me, it is interesting to see how these circles of identity change from that situation. And this man was really looking for, how can I be an artist again? How can I get work again? Well, now he is working as an artist in the Netherlands, so his work did become more bigger. He can support his family in a better way. He lost, of course, a lot of friends trying to make new friends in the Netherlands, which is always a little bit different than the friends that he had when he was in his own upbringing with people he knew from school and everything. So for me, this was very interesting with him to look where the changes happen and how he can still have a kind of a pride and kind of a feeling home and feeling when I can still be who I am and having this impasse of the changes because they don't get back anymore. So he had to adjust to this whole thing. If I look at the theory of the self, then for me, and of course in a lot of situations, the it function is quite a difficult one. The need, I have to survive. And in order to survive, I get sometimes in this stuck identity. Because in the survival mode, in the creative adjustment, I'm trying to become the new Dutchman, or I try to become a part of this new family. And my whole idea of what I really need is really hard and sometimes as well dangerous, because if you speak about your needs, maybe that makes you more vulnerable, and it's not a situation that you can be vulnerable in. So for me, that is, as a worker, very interesting to see, okay, maybe this gut function at this moment is not the main topic to talk about, but it's more how to survive. And how do you survive in a kind of a healthy way for yourself, and see, I don't know how long this will take. I don't know how long it will take that you will have to be in this impasse, that you have to survive. And then in order to go back to the it function. This reminds me always of a woman I was working with, also with a refugee background. And she was really like, I'm a horrible mother. I'm not good for my children. I don't feel anything for my children anymore. And she felt very ashamed of that. She felt ashamed that she didn't feel love for her children and for her husband. And then we realized that she had to survive. And in order to survive, she had to make herself a strong woman, a woman who didn't feel that much anymore. Because if she was feeling too much, then it would be dangerous for the situation, she thought. So we slowly could work on the it function again. And we had to see, but this is your creative adjustment. Your creative adjustment needed at this point a kind of a stuck identity of the strong woman that you became. The interesting thing was that she kind of started a little bit to work on the it function after her husband and her children were in a kind of a safe place. And then when they were in a safe place, then she felt the idea, oh, I can work on myself again. There is also some room for me. So if I go back to the words of Jung, then her real her was not possible for a long time because she had to survive. And after that, when she had this whole possibility, and we had to work really slowly and with really small steps to get there again. for me, it's important that I realize myself, what does the situation do to me? How is the stuck situation of my clients influencing me? And do I want to fix? Do I want to help? Do I feel maybe ashamed that I'm in a privileged situation while my client is in a situation which is really horrible? I'm working with a lot of refugees, and their situation is really horrible, and I can go home in the evening and I can just have my friends around me. I have my family not far away from me, which is very important that I realize that, in order not to feel the introjects of helping, which society also, of course, projects on me. So in order to see the situation, and that's what I'm trying to do with this theme, to see, okay, the situation is influencing me. How do I respond to the situation? And can I then go to my client and see where are the things in your background that maybe can support you, or that are horrible, or maybe things that are in an impasse and the things that you will never get back, and see how can I deal with it and how can I stay. I think for me, this is the most hard thing to do, to realize I am stuck as well. I can't help, but I have to stay with you. And when I stay with you, then maybe slowly you can feel your own possibilities again. Working with this woman was really working slow, and feeling my guilt and feeling her guilt, and then stay there. And in order to stay there, then slowly in a couple of years, she could feel herself again, and she started a bit to feel love, but it was very dangerous to feel love. So she went back to feeling hard, and that she was a horrible woman, a horrible wife, a horrible mother. And then I had to stay there with her to see how can you slowly get into this new situation and see where you are. And of course, she never got in the situation where she was before she had to run away from her country. Because of the language and because of the network that she had in the Netherlands, she could never get into the job that she used to have before her. She was the refugee. So for me, I use these icebergs a lot to see how can I work in this whole idea, to see in my own iceberg what is happening there, and what is for me, what are the rituals, what is the language, what are the traumatic experience maybe in my background, what are the systemic values, and to see with my clients, okay, what are the traumatic experience and the systemic values in your, and how did it influence your behavior? How did it influence your emotions, your the rituals, the things you can do and the things you cannot do anymore? So all the time trying to stay in this relational situation, but for a lot of times also to go back in my iceberg to see how can I stay here, to not project on my client, to not retroflect, but to just stay in the impasse, to hear that there is this idea of helping and of fixing, but I need to stay that I cannot fix, and I have to see where are the things that maybe are for you, the possibilities to change, to adapt, and to get a kind of a healthy place in the situation where you are now. So for that, I use a set of cards to see where the multiple stories are, my multiple stories and the multiple stories of the client, and then see what are the identities that maybe can support you in the situation that you are. So to see, okay, there is this one identity which you lost, or maybe more identities that you lost. This is the stuck situation that you are in. But how can we walk around on these cards to see where are the stories that can support you? And here I have the words which, working in the field of diversity, are the words that I recognized as these can kind of, when I touch them, give people the possibility to share their stories, to share the stories of how important the language was, how important the mother tongue is, how important the philosophy of life is now and before. What is your status within family that comes with responsibilities or not? What is the whole family background that gave you the support to stay where you are at this moment? And of course, there is always a lot of different stories with every card. And for me, the storytelling, and especially this focusing on the multiple story, is for me very interesting to see how can I touch them, which stories are untouched, which stories never were touched before, which stories were too much touched before and did hurt. Where is the pride? Are the situation of pride? Are the situation of shame? What are the things that you had to hide in the situation where you were? Especially, for example, working with LGBT people, then there were a lot of things that there were no words for. I've been working with a boy from Congo, and he didn't have words for his homosexuality. He just know that there was something else going on. So we had to see, how do you find words that fit to how you want to define you, instead of also having this Western concept put upon you. Because a lot of times I noticed that this Western concepts don't fit with the words of the personality that somebody has from its own origin. So we have to see how do you deal with it. For example, for me, it's very important if the Western way of coming out is for a lot of people coming from other continents, from other cultures, is not possible, because they have this situation within the family where they have to hide and we have to have a double identity. So also here I have to realize that my way of looking at the situation is my Western way, and my Western white way doesn't always fit the way that where I can support my clients with. So also with language, for example, if you don't speak the language, then a lot of people already think that, yeah, I'm stupid because I don't speak the language fluently. And also people respond to people who have a strong accent or don't speak the language very much, like you are not very smart, but it's only the language that keeps them. And then there comes shame and stuff like that in the relation. And well, that's something we have to work on. And for me, that is what I do with these cards, to let people stand on it and then see the stories, but also knowing my own stories that in me are not touched or are stuck, or my creative adjustment to the situation. So this
Marten, przepraszam.
Yeah.
Przepraszam bardzo, mam tutaj wiadomość od...
Martin, my apologies, but the tech support is saying, could you please improve your internet connection? Because I'm afraid that we might be able to lose you in a moment if you don't do anything with that. Is it possible?
I don't get a translation, so I don't know. Can somebody translate this for me?
Yes, Martin, can you hear the interpreter now? No.
Martin?
Yeah.
The problem is that with your internet connection, we wonder if you can do anything to improve it, because the connection is inconsistent.
Oh, I can't change anything here.
Okay. Jeśli będzie tak dalej, to będziemy potrzebowali wyłączenia kamerki.
If it continues to be this way, we will have to switch off your camera, but please, can you switch on the English channel for listening, so you'll be able to hear the English interpretation.
So I can't change anything here from where
Okay.
I am. It's just what I have. So I'm sorry if it's not working well for you.
Okay.
Yeah, and Martin, could you please go to English channel translation.
Oh,
So
where do I get it?
you need to find globus and to choose English. Or in additional settings.
I see only my own.
Yeah, you have additional.
More.
This one?
Can you hear me now, Martin? This is your interpreter speaking.
Yes, I can hear you now.
Great,
Okay.
fantastic. So they were asking you to improve if you could possibly improve your internet connection. If not, we will have to ask you to switch off the camera.
Okay.
Because Zoom has been telling us that there is a poor internet connection. But so far it's fine, but if it continues to be bad, we will ask you at some point to switch off your camera. For now, we're fine. We're good to go.
Okay. Yep. Okay, so I switched off and then I will see. I hope it's better now. I hope you can still follow the things that I say. So for me, the crossroad thinking is about this whole intersection of our identities, that our identities are always influencing each other. And that's when one of our identities influence, of course, the other ones as well. And this whole idea of the kaleidoscope vision, it's for me very interesting to use as a way to also sometimes we get stuck in one, but still there are the other identities as well where we can get the power from, and how can we use them in order to have the healthy parts support the at this moment kind of unhealthy or stuck parts that we are in. And now, again, my screen is. I'm sorry for these technical things. Yep. So for me, it's important that we see how we start our relation, that we start not in this tube view, focusing on one identity, but we start always with this wide, including a way of starting with our clients. So always have these more stories available in our practice. That we don't stop, and especially in groups with competition, with oh, I've done that and I've done that, and also the competition who has it the hardest, because I noticed a lot of times that is something that we get stuck in as well. Oh, that isn't. And for me, it's very important to see, in order to get all the multiple identity grab, because I see that a lot, that, oh, but you are a refugee, so you will be, or you're LGBT, so you will be. And then we have those interpretations from our own idea about this identity. And for me, it's important to see, okay, I touched the story, but it's you who has to tell me how it is for you, instead of that my interpretations go. And also, of course, there's a lot of interpretations from the world, which are very much into this, the relation that we have. So again, for instance, when somebody is an immigrant, then it's easy like, oh, you're missing your country, or you have to do this, or you have to do that. If you're an LGBT person, then, oh, but that is your problem and you have to work with that. For me, it's important to touch it so that people can talk about it, but always my client, the other one, is the most familiar on this whole topic. So they will know how to tell the story. And for me also to a little bit get away from my curiosity, but to facilitate the story. So to give the other person the room, the space to tell the story as in the way that they look at it, that the way they see it and appreciate it. And then sometimes I have to see at my methodology as well, because I think that a lot of also our methodology is focused, is gone from a white privileged situation. So sometimes I really have, there's not equality. So the first picture is the see, well, there is not everybody has the same situation in our society. Then we can adjust our methodology to give more equity. But for me, it's very interesting also as the work as a Gestalt therapist, and for me working with a lot of people with an immigration and refugee background, I realized a lot of times that my way of working is not really inclusive. So it's not just adjusting, but it's also just
No niestety straciliśmy pana prelegenta.
Na chwilę.
Unfortunately, we lost Marten. Let's hope we manage to reconnect shortly.
No właśnie. Lena, ty masz jakiś kontakt z Martynem?
Lena, are you in contact with Marten? Is it possible to contact?
Doskonale.
Great.
Może rozwiązaniem będzie użycie internetu z
Perhaps
telefonu.
he might try to connect with his phone internet.
Już jest.
Okay, he's with us. Marten has joined us.
am I back?
Tak.
Yes, you are.
Something changed. Okay, well, I will do it without my PowerPoint for now. I'm really sorry for this technical inconvenience, but see where I lost you. Yeah, I lost you, I think, in when I said that sometimes our methodology doesn't fit the situation of our clients. And for me, it's important to see that sometimes we really have to adjust. And also when I work as a supervisor for institutes, sometimes I notice that we also have these kind of, oh, I have to do something else. Sorry, there is now, yeah. When I work, I sometimes have to realize, and for me, it's important to see that a lot of the ways, the methodology that we work is coming from a Western white concept. And there are a lot of interjects also from Gestalt that people think, oh, but I have to work like this. I have to sit like this. I have to use these words. And for me, it's very important to be creative also in the way that we work. For instance, what I do a lot is I walk with my clients. I go outside. I ask them to bring poetry with them, or to have music that they really like, to give them a kind of a way to look at the situation in a different way. And I learned from a colleague of mine, she is working with so-called protection codes. So she says, if we use things from the past, like smells, like clothes, like music, there is already a little bit of support coming from the system in order to feel more comfortable and to feel more a bit, maybe a bit more like home. So for me, working in this whole field is very much to how to be creative. Where can my client find support? And how can we both look at that support without shame? Because sometimes as well, people are ashamed of that they don't speak the language very well, or they are ashamed that they are not in the social economic position they were in the land where they, in the country where they came from. So I really have to see how can we make a support system. And that's also this working with the multiple story, that there are a lot of stories that are still strong, even though some stories really they lost because of they were refugee or an immigrant. So to see how the support is, also to see where a new chosen family can be found. When I was living in Amsterdam, there was a gay men's choir. And I noticed that in this gay men's choir, there were a lot of people with a refugee and an immigrant background. And they felt a kind of a new family, and they found a chosen family, and they found a support in singing together. So for me, those things are interesting, how to make a situation, and then I have to go outside of my therapy box to see how can I also use my support system, my network, the networks that I know. So to give people a kind of a more support, and to see that these multiple identity can help, that I cannot fix that one identity at this moment, but that there are other parts of the person that can help to see, oh yeah, but there is something that will support me, there is something that will support me. And still stay, and for me that's a hard thing to do, but still we have to do, stay with the impasse, but because there are parts of the personality or of the id function that are lost, and we have to deal, and my client has to deal with that. But being creative in this whole situation, looking what is your support system, how can I help to find things in your bigger multiple story as support system, is one of the main things that I'm doing when I do this work. So that also means the power of this multiple story. How can we use it, and how can I use it in my therapy? And the most thing that I'm the picture that I mostly stop with is the one saying, our minds are like parachutes, they only function when open. And I think we have to, as workers, we have to also see, can we be open? Can we be open to the situation that is different for other people? And or are we also kind of stuck in our idea of our way of working, our way of thinking, our way of looking at the person in this one identity, instead of looking at the total identity, knowing my privileges, knowing the situation where I'm in, that it's different from the other one, and how can we make a dialogical situation from that? So that is about the story. I hope you still could follow the things that I said, even though the technical things, and I'm wondering if there are questions for now. I think we have about 5 minutes. So I'm wondering if there are questions from you, things that you want to relate, you can relate to.
Perhaps whilst there may be questions, whilst people are thinking, Martin, I connect what I heard you say with Jean-Marie Robin's presentation from this morning around how do I be with the experience of crisis. And what I'm taking away from what you're saying is I think I struggle with this, trying to think of the word that you used for it, but with the degree of difficulty, which of course is constituted in part by dynamics of privilege. and I really find it helpful, the approaches you're describing that I can take in order to avoid projecting too much of myself into the void. So I just want to appreciate and thank you for the life experience that you're bringing.
Thank you. More questions or remarks for now?
Again, it's a silence, and it's interesting what we project into the silence. There's a comment in the chat from Christina, which I'll read so the translators can translate. Great presentation and important questions from the therapist point of view also. Noted many of them, thank you.
Ingę
Cards?
tak zapytała o karty. Tak też jestem ciekawa, czy sam je
Okay, there's a question about the cards. Did you create them yourself? What cards are we talking about here?
It's a question how to work with them, or how to, what is exactly the question?
Yes, about how you created them and what they essentially are.
Ja jakoś tak...
I think perhaps, do you have your translation on, Marten? The English?
Maybe not, because I was...
I think the
I got
question was
lost.
around where are they from? Did you create them, and could you say a bit more about what they are?
Okay, I created them myself when I've been working at a refugee organization for many years. And then we started with only the cultural differences and made this kind of intercultural communication stuff. And then I realized, working with refugees, there's more. There's also the class that is coming from the city or coming from the countryside, being a man, woman, being gay, straight, non-binary, whatever. So I slowly developed these cards in order to give people the possibility to see how multiple all our identities are. So nowadays I have the cards, about 19 of these cards, and it's mostly that people can stand on the cards or make something of themselves to feel what story come up when I'm standing on it. So it's this kind of combination of intersectionality and Gestalt that I work with. I can send them later on so that you can spread them amongst the people who want to have them. Also, you can look at my website, martenbos.nl. But I can send them to the organization, and then you can spread them for the people who want them.
Hugely appreciated, Marten. Thank you.
Thank you.